Grizzly on YouTube asks, can you make a video on exactly why it's so common for software purchases to be considered licensing? Yeah, and music's the same way. And it's the things you think it is. It's about stealing, right? So if I sell you a car, you can't do anything more than just sell that car. If you wanted to sell 5 cars, you'd have to buy more cars from me, right? It's pretty simple. There's some haziness I'm about to get into, though, also in physical goods. Bear with me. I'm part of the problem. But in software, if you bought the piece of software and you could just copy it and give it out to everybody, then they could just have as many copies. You could just keep selling it, and they would only sell you one, and you could sell 5,000, and you would replace them. Now, music and software fall underneath federal copyright protection, and that's how you kind of get around that. That's officially the way to do it, but they kind of both fall into licensing because they want you to have added protection so they can have a little bit more control than just copyright and having to sue everybody for copyright. Because if you remember the big court cases and everything, but so for physical goods, there's the idea of first sale doctrine, which means if I buy something from you, I can go do whatever I want with that thing that I just bought. And that is pretty true. It is pretty true of software as well in a weird way. So when we first started Old Man Murray, we actually sold games. We sold a lot of games. We sold too many games and it became a pain in the ass selling games. We sold physical games. We sold box copies. So man, don't come on me, box copies. I love them. I made money on them. But here's the weird thing. I found the place we bought it for back in the Computer Shopper magazine, right? Paging through a big giant book. I miss those too. But in there, it's just like, hey, you can buy these games really cheap. And I'm like, why are they so cheap? I don't know, but I'm going to buy them. They're the legit copies. They're the real boxes. It's the real thing. And then you would notice little discrepancies. And what they were they were games made in the U.S. and boxed in the U.S. and then made to be shipped overseas. So they didn't pay any taxes in the U.S. And they were supposed to go overseas and then pay taxes there, but somebody would reroute them and sell them back into the U.S. tax-free. Now, that person is breaking some laws. But me buying it from them, not breaking any laws. And I'm covered under that. I think it was like toothpaste was the big thing that kind of set the precedence here. So there's a lot of weird laws around this stuff that doesn't seem obvious, that even with the copyright protection, the software people were just like, let's just call it a license, and then we have more control and there's more things we can do so that these weird people who want to do things like Chet can't do them, which is fair. And at the end of the day, that doesn't make as much of a difference as many people have noted. Many people have noted. It's been actually a nice conversation that it really is about, can you take it away from me so that I can't play it anymore, or are there back-end services that is connected that it requires that you can take away from me and then I don't have it anymore. Really, that's more the issue, right? So even if you owned it, but you couldn't play it or you couldn't connect to those back-end services, it doesn't really make a difference, right? And so that's why I think most people don't really care about the licensing versus owning. It's really about the access and the guaranteed access, which, if you think about it, when we start talking about that way, where we see this access get taken away the most is at the storefront level, especially on platforms. And so that's why I think looking at it that way, and instead of asking for a developer who's going out of business, hey, as you go out of business, can you spend your last dimes not giving it to the employees, but instead making sure that the software lives on, is a little weird compared to, hey, why don't we have the storefront that made money selling your game have to continue making that game accessible in some form, right? So there's a bunch of different ways to look at this, and that's just one of them and why I think of that.